Monday night ended the 3-week boycott I had been staging. After reading Death to the BCS, I decided to give the middle finger to the tradition that is the college football bowl season. There were 35 bowl games this season, and I skipped every single one of them. Some people tune into the games for the tradition, or because it's just some football they want to watch, or they have some money on the line, or their school is involved. It didn't matter if Stanford made the Orange Bowl. I even missed that game. With the exception of the BCS championship game, I really didn't miss much. What's there to miss when the average margin of victory of all these bowl games was 15.3 points? I don't know. Maybe next year I won't be so angry and actually tune in for some bowl action. Until next year, I'm proud of what I set out to do. Unfortunately, nothing got solved, and there still isn't a playoff. But I just told the bowl cartel swine exactly how I felt. Actions speak louder than words, and me skipping 35 bowl games is a huge screw you to the entire establishment. While I missed out on an epic national championship game, I did catch a great comeback in the FCS championship game. That's the one AA. Eastern Washington came back from 19 points down to beat Delaware and win the title. I'd like to take a moment to talk about the tragedy that happened in Tucson, Arizona. I happen to work for the company where the grocery store where the shooting happened, and I did hear about it. Okay, honestly, I live in California, so obviously I wasn't there when it happened, but I'm just saying, it's the same company I work for. Now, my wife told me that a couple of people got shot outside a grocery store, but that wasn't the whole story. A young gunman went on a shooting spree and killing 6 and wounding 12. The notable of the wounded was Congresswoman Gabrielle Gifford. Sadly, one of the deceased was a 9-year-old girl who was the granddaughter of former Phillies manager Dallas Green. Oddly, the guy who killed 6, he forgot to kill himself. Don't these gunmen who usually take a few innocent lives in a short amount of time kill themselves in the end? Don't they try to take the coward's way out and kill themselves instead of letting themselves being brought to justice? Not Jared Loeffner. So hopefully he will be taken to justice, and he won't plead insanity, and he'll get the firing squad. Mr. Loeffner, may God have mercy on your child-killing, senior citizen shooting soul. Sharks have been on a slide in the past couple of weeks, and I'm starting to get a little irritated by it. It was so bad last night that I actually shut off the Sharks-Oilers game after the second period, and I found something else to do. The Sharks have dropped their 6th game in a row, and they are now in the cellar of the Pacific Division. And I know there is a difference between last place and first place, but not for a team like this. This is a team that made the conference finals last season, and it's below par for a team like this. I'm personally calling out Coach Todd McClellan to stop talking about what needs to be done and show me what needs to be done. Try using a different line combination for the power play. Tell these guys to stop watching the puck on defense and concentrate on the guy waiting for an open pass. Crash the net and play with some urgency. I haven't seen any urgency from this team over the past 8 months. Now I haven't panicked yet because I've seen this team pull 2 7-game winless streaks in a month span and still make the playoffs. But it's a little different now than it was in the 2001 season. Before I begin another edition of the Gamers Hall of Fame, I'd like to take a moment and change the name of that segment. I now call it the Dave's Hall of Fames. Or faves, not fames, because fame is favorite, and sometimes a lot of the famous games aren't really my favorite. So now that that's been cleared up, this video is about NBA basketball games before EA Sports destroyed the basketball market with the NBA Live series. And when I mean destroy it, I mean pretty much milk it to the ground. The first is Tecmo NBA Basketball. It was also known as Tecmo Super NBA Basketball on the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. This was a favorite of mine and a good alternate to the tired Bulls versus whoever else made the finals that EA churned out in the mid-90s. It had all 27 teams, and keep in mind this is before the Raptors came along, this is before the Grizzlies came along, and the Charlotte Bobcats. So it had 27 teams and a full season mode. The notable thing that stood out in the season mode is the use of the actual schedules. And I went to a Warriors game back in '92, and when I played the Nintendo versions, I found the game I went to. It was March 7th against the Rockets. So I'm able to find it on these games. The Nintendo and Super Nintendo version, they used the 91-92 season data. and the Sega Genesis used the 93-94 data. The gameplay was fast and smooth, and the controls were simple to get the hang of. It was pretty easy to pull some dunks off. This was one of those games you can play all night if you did a short season. Now, the second is a game that would precede the longtime NBA Live series from EA, NBA Showdown. I had the 94 edition on the Sega Genesis, and there was also a version of Showdown on the Super Nintendo. It featured two things. First, a revamped game engine that is much faster than the earlier games. Second, it was the first game in the EA series to have not only a customizable playoff mode, but a full season mode. The SNES version had the leg up on the Sega Genesis for two things. The SNES version, you can pull off trades. The Genesis, you couldn't. The second is the Super Nintendo version had Michael Jordan in it as opposed to the Genesis version. And the only reason why, what I can think of is when 94 came out for the Genesis, Michael Jordan was in his first retirement. You know, the moment where he thought he could play baseball but couldn't. But the good thing about both these games, they had all 27 teams, and they had 4 blank teams that could be customized and saved on battery backup, and they can be used for exhibition or playoff mode. When I got this game in Easter of '94, I thought it was fantastic. This was the best EA basketball game on a 16-bit system. And that is all I have. I will see you next week.